Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to today's episode on Dangerous African Confessions HD. In this episode, we have a story from one of our sisters called Ruth. In this captivating story, Ruth shares with us a story that might be difficult for someone to tell. Especially, if the person involved is your own biological father. She tells us how her own father became rich and she and her two other siblings have all distanced themselves from their father. What made her to tell the story is about the fact that her own friend is now a victim of his father's evil ways of making money. Before we go and listen to the story, I would please ask you to show us love by subscribing if you haven't already, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. Without wasting much of your time, let's go and listen to the story.
Hello brother, my name is Ruth, and I would love to share this message with you so you can also share with your audience. It is not easy telling you about this whole thing, but I believe it is the right thing to do. So that, at least people out there will be very much careful, especially with the ladies. I cannot prove this in any law court since it is more spiritual, therefore I can only tell the story to the general public. If there is a way that I could prove something of the spirit in this world, I would gladly do this. Just put him in a place where he cannot come back and continue with these evil acts of his. You see, I grew up to know my father to be someone who was loving and caring but didn't have enough to always see us through the day. So, sometimes it is my mother's own skill and ways that she manages to provide food for us. Growing up, I saw my mother always angry and fighting my father about the situation in the house. She was always comparing my father to his friends who at that time had made it in life. This time, we were only 2 children in their marriage, me and my little brother. When my mother got pregnant again, I remember I kept on teasing him about loving my father and yet making it look like she does not. She will insult me when I bring such issues up. Time went by and we became 4 children out of their marriage. It appeared that the burden was too much for my mother and the fights became rampant. To the extent that sometimes our neighbors will come and settle the issues. When it happened like that, you could clearly tell that it is paining my father so much that sometimes he will sleep in the corridors on a bench that we had in that house. We used to live in a compound house, and when such fights come up, my father can go out and drink himself up all in the name of my mother is disgracing him. My father will always tell you that he used to have a very nice job when he met my mother. But for some reason, he was sacked from the workplace without him having done anything wrong. When my mother starts her usual fights with him, he always would tell her that it's the witches in his house that brought my mother to him to destroy his life the way she has done it. Because prior to him meeting my mother, he was living a very comfortable life. Anytime they fight, my father will come to us and beg us to forgive him for saying things to our mother. He will always say that he really does not know how mother always is able to push him to the corner where he will have no choice than to talk back at her. That he says, he does not feel proud about. This went on for some time and my father decided to travel to the big city to see if he will make something of himself. At that age, I didn't like the idea of him going away from us. Because I loved my father so much. But I understood him perfectly. The disgrace was too much for him to bear. I feared he might neglect us because of our mother, but he promised me before he left us that he will always make sure he comes back and visit us when there is time. My father was very close to me than my mother. I remember I went with him to the transport station where he went to board transport for his traveling. When the car was about to leave, he came down and hugged me in tears. He made a promise that he will never forget us. Even though right now, my father and I are not in talking terms, when I remember this day, I cry. I always ask myself why did he changed? We loved him just the way he was. That journey my father embarked on changed him completely. After some months, he came back to visit us. And he looked very neat and nice. But I could tell the distance he gave to my mother. I went to him and tried to find out why he is giving my mother that kind of distance. He told me that he didn't want any more troubles from her. He said he only wanted to engage my mother when he feels he has enough to compete with the people that my mother had always been comparing them to him. I pleaded with him to not start disassociating himself from her, but you still could tell there was so much pain in his voice when I brought that topic. He took us out and bought some stuffs for us. It was very nice having him around again. Soon, his time was up and he went back to the city, promising of returning and taking us to visit him at where he was. This was good news. The idea of me getting close to my father again was something that had completely taken over my mind. I became unusually happy because I knew I would be going to my father very soon. I didn't hate my mother in any way. But the love I had for my father was beyond what I could say for my mother. Almost in about 4 years later, my father came to our town with a very nice car together with a friend of his. When they came to the town, it was lovely. They took us to every place that we said we wanted to go. But then, the problem that happened was that my father had told my mother that he would be taking only the children and not he the mother with him back to the city. Apparently, this discussion had gone on for a long time without any of us knowing. So, when it was time for us to leave, that was when we got to know that our mother was not going to be part of that journey. We did all we could for them to change their decisions, but none of them seemed ready to change their minds. My mother asked us to go and live with him, since we will have a better life in the city than in our town. My father gave my mother some huge sums of money and asked her to set herself up for something. He again asked her to call him whenever she needs his help in anything, for he was ever ready to support her. That was how we left our hometown to the city to be with our father, leaving our mother back there. But then, sometime, we do go and visit her. My father, who couldn't afford a 2-square meal for his family, was now living in this mansion and had lots of cars to his name. I didn't care how that money and properties all came into being, until I met this guy who I like so much. He would talk to me and all that, but whenever I invite him over to our house, he will reject the idea. He would tell me that his spirit does not warrant him to be in that house. Whenever he says that, I get confused. I came into this conclusion that maybe he is afraid of my father or was intimidated by the fact that I was a rich man's daughter. This is because I have this female friend Eunice, who is more or less like in our house every day. She can sleep over my place even when I am not around. Little did I know that the guy had the information that my father was a ritualist, and all the money that he has is as a result of sacrificing girls in exchange for his wealth. One day, this guy invited me to his church for a program. And when I went, during the ministration, the pastor said that there is a young lady here whose father is really rich in terms of money. That lady is called Ruth. He continued to say that, don't get up for anyone to see you. I don't want to cause any problems for you. He said that the monies that your father is having is as a result of him joining a cult. And in that cult, they do sleep with ladies and they use their private parts as a sacrifice to their master. When it happens that way, they will give the lady enough money for her to feel good about what she has done with him. This whenever they call the lady, she will be glad to come. Until when they have finally used her, then she will start to experience some sore in her private part. As soon as the lady sees those sores there, it won't even last her a week, then she will die. He said that is the source of my father's income. I then got to understand why this guy didn't want to be in my house. But then, how true is this thing that the pastor was saying? So, I told the guy that I wanted to see the pastor. He arranged for me to meet the pastor that day. When I got to the pastor and we started talking, this man told me everything that happened between my mother and father whilst we were still living in our town before he traveled. This made me to realize whatever he was saying about my father was indeed true. He said something again that my father's next victim is my friend who always comes to visit me in the house. He said that my friend only uses me as the reason to be in the house, but her main objective is to meet up with my father. And they have been sleeping together for some time now. He said that, my friend has just about a week or so to leave. This hit me like a blow on my chest. I couldn't take it anymore. So, I asked the pastor permission to leave and I went straight home. What I saw was a total shock to me. I got home and realized my siblings were sleeping in my room. They might have been there watching TV. Because, the TV was on whilst they were asleep. I wanted to go and confront my father about the revelation that I just received about him to see if he will confirm or deny. I just pushed his door and it was not locked, only to see my friend in my father's room kissing him. I looked at them for a while and I didn't say anything. I went back to my room and locked the door. I heard my friend shouting my name and banging on my door. But I did not open it. The next morning, I texted my friend and told her that the man she has been sleeping with is a ritualist. And because of her betrayal, whatever happens to her, she deserves it. She tried calling and wanting to talk to me, but I did not give her the chance. That evening, I had come back home to pack my things from his house when I saw my friend arguing with my father about the text I sent her. My father called me and I did not mind him. I went straight into my room and packed my belongings. I went and booked a hotel to sleep in for that very night. I had already called an agent for an apartment. When I got the apartment, I went back home and told my mother everything. She said that she didn't feel right about our father's success. That was why when he decided to ignore her, she didn't even fight back. I asked her why she didn't tell us. She said that, despite everything, she knew there was no way my father was going to hurt us. And she felt we stood a better chance in life in the city than in our town. That was why she allowed us to go with him. Now my younger ones are always around me. Because, during our stay with our father, I had become their mother. So, there was no way I was leaving that house and wouldn't take them with me. I heard the news of my friend's death. I went to my father's house and told him a piece of my mind. I revealed everything that I know to him. And I vowed that there was no day going forward that I will ever associate myself with him as my father or his daughter. I told him that if there was a chance for me to prove the things he does, I would let the police arrest and jail him for the rest of his life. Please, help me reach wider audience through your platform and spread the news to the ladies to be aware of the things that these rich men are using them for. I am not saying every rich man is like that, but I beg of you guys to be very careful with your life. Be content with what you have and fight to make it on your own and not through those means, please.
I would love to take this opportunity to ask you to please kindly subscribe, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. I have this saying that, money is sweet but life is sweeter. But you have to be wise when searching for money. It is not always about the end goal of having money that matters. The process through which you got the money will also determine how your end will be. As a lady, it's good to live good and be treated like a queen. But in doing so, my sisters, let's be vigilant a little. I hope we've all learnt one or two from the story. Because sometimes, the process through which we are treated like queens and we make the money also matters a lot. Since it always determines the end result. As I always say, we are not here to race with ourselves. Therefore, do the little you can and ask your Creator to bless your handwork. Please let's be mindful of the choices that we make. Stay blessed and be safe. Thanks for being a part of this growing family. Kindly share your thought with us in the comment section below. And if you are new here, please subscribe, like and share.